This is going to be a quick screencast about the importance of surface area to volume ratio. First, let's consider this question. Does an elephant have bigger cells than you, more cells than you, or both? The correct answer is that the elephant has more cells than you. Their cells are the same size as yours. Why? Well, there's a limit to how big cells can get because cells need to maintain a high surface area to volume ratio. So what do I mean by that? Surface area refers to the outside. So it's like if you wrapped the cell in wrapping paper, how much wrapping paper would you need? Volume refers to the inside. Like if you filled the cell with water, how much water would you need to fill it up? And the ratio between those, how much outside there is versus how much inside there is very important for a cell, and it's actually important for a lot of things in biology and even outside of biology. The main reason for this regarding cells is that if a cell is too large, it takes too long for things to diffuse in and out from the middle of the cell. Cells need to get oxygen and fuel, so like glucose, in quickly, and they need to be able to get waste and carbon dioxide out quickly for the cell to be able to function. So if I have a big cell, it's going to be harder for stuff to get all the way to the middle than if I have a little cell. So let's compare them mathematically now. Let's do some calculations. If we want to compare a 4 by 4 by 4 centimeter cube, a 2 by 2 by 2 centimeter cube, and a 1 by 1 by 1 centimeter cube. So if we calculate both the surface area and the volume ratio of those cubes, to find the surface area of a cube, I'll do 6 times the side squared, because a side squared will be 1 square, and then a cube has 6 sides. So that'll give me the whole area of the outside. And then the formula for the volume of a cube is side to the power of 3. And we can calculate those out and get the numbers for the surface area and the volume. And then if we figure out the ratio of the surface area to the volume, we find that the small cube has a surface area to volume ratio of 6. The middle cube has a surface area to volume ratio of 3, and the large cube has a surface area volume ratio of 1.5. So the bigger our cube gets, the lower our ratio of surface area to volume gets. This might be a little counterintuitive. You think, well, as the cube gets bigger, the volume gets bigger, but the surface area also gets bigger. And it does, and we can see that, but the volume increases more rapidly than the surface area increases as the cube gets bigger. Because the surface area, we're taking our size of the cube to the power of 2, but for the volume, we're taking the size of the cube to the power of 3. So it's increasing like another magnitude, exponentially, relative to the surface area. Essentially, the amount of space inside grows faster than the amount of space outside as your cube gets bigger, and therefore the surface area to volume ratio goes down. Cells want a high surface area to volume ratio, so this cell with a surface area to volume ratio of 6 would be much more successful than this cell with a surface area to volume ratio of 1.5. So that was a cube. Will this hold true for other shapes, like a sphere? Many cells are more spherish than cubish, so let's find out. So when we do the math for the spheres of various sizes, we find that the same rule holds true. The smaller sphere has a higher surface area to volume ratio than the larger sphere. So regardless of shape, if we're comparing cells of the same shape, the larger cell is going to have a worse or lower surface area to volume ratio than the smaller cell. Surface area to volume ratio also is affected by not just the size of the cell, but the shape of the cell. Cells that are squiggly, or membranes that are squiggly, can pack a lot more surface area into the same amount of space. Therefore, they're better at absorbing and releasing things. If you look at your intestines, if you look at the lining of your intestines, microscope zoom in, you'll see that they are squiggly, very squiggly. And even within those squiggles, if you zoomed in further, they're actually kind of like this, with even more squiggles. Why? Well, the purpose of the intestines is to absorb nutrients from food. They're trying to absorb stuff. So more surface area equals more area for absorption, so they'll be more effective at absorbing things. We can find this pattern in a lot of things. If you think about, your body, a lot of things have this squiggliness, like your brain, for example. Squiggly. Why is it squiggly? Well, it's squiggly to increase the surface area of your brain because the thinking part happens on the surface of your brain. So more surface area, more area for thinking. Some less intelligent, lower animals, like lizards, for example, have more smooth brains, less squiggliness and foldiness. They're not as smart. They don't have as much surface area for thinking. Why do elephants, like we talked about earlier, have big flat ears? Well, the big flat ear provides a lot of surface area for the elephant to cool itself off, to lose heat. They lose a lot of heat through those giant flappy ears, especially since the elephant is a, big, dense animal. It's got a lot of volume. Those big ears help it release extra heat. This even applies outside of biology, like if you think about cooking. Why does hamburger cook faster than a big roast? Well, the hamburger has a lot more surface area to volume ratio, because it's like little pieces, as opposed to the big roast. Less surface area, a lot more volume, takes longer for the heat to penetrate all the way inside that big roast. So there's tons of examples in the world of this surface area to volume ratio concept.